Is it still morning? Good morning, everyone. This is, now here too, Chad. This is going to be fast because it's a really very busy time, plus we have a very terrible bill on the floor. So many times it seems we come into this room and acknowledge another tragedy. Today I mentioned that Monday marks the 3-year anniversary of the heartbreaking shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School. That's about 1,000 days, a little more than 1,000 days. And in that 1,000 days have been a little more than 1,000 mass murders, more than 1,000 mass shootings, almost one a day. Sandy Hook and San Bernardino are bookends of a daily tragedy of gun violence that tears apart communities across the country. Gun violence has claimed over 90,000 American lives in the past 3 years. We have a responsibility to address this. It's a public health issue. It is an epidemic, and we join the vigils that are happening. We had it yesterday here, but across the country, to honor those who not only lost their lives at Sandy Hook, at Newtown, but across the country. Yesterday, as you may have noticed, I offered a privilege resolution to bring forward Republican Congressman Peter King's bill to close the loophole that puts guns in the hands of people on the FBI terrorist watch list. Republicans blocked the resolution for the 6th time then, for the 7th time this morning, to keep the House from even debating the bill to end this shocking loophole. This morning, again, they blocked it for the 7th time. 90% of Democrats have already signed our discharge petition to force a vote to protect the American people. We will continue to demand action. And it's about action. As we honor people, what the theme of the vigil is, honor with action. Not just words, moments of silence, but honoring them with action. We're coming up on the omnibus bill, as you know, and that's why this is going to be a shorter than usual meeting. We're calling on Republicans to lift the outrageous 19-year ban on federal research on gun violence. Called for that yesterday. It is in the bill, the gun ban, the ban on gun violence prevention research. American people want the facts. The members of Congress need the data. Too many times the Republicans say we can't make a decision on this because we don't have the data. Well, let's get the data. Lift the ban. Even the maker of the move, I was on the Appropriations Committee at the time when Jay Dickey got this put into law in the Republican majority in Congress, and he now has stepped away from his own action. So negotiations on the omnibus and the tax extenders continue. We, again, have a big focus, and we will continue to have a big focus, and we will always have a big focus on gun violence prevention, because I don't know how we can even face the public, this Congress, having moments of silence and no action. Okay, so here we have these two bills before us, you know. The omnibus is a must-pass bill. In order to keep government open, we must pass that bill. And I think we're working in a direction to get that done. I see that the Republican leader has announced that we won't have the vote until Tuesday. I thought we were closer to a bill than that, but nonetheless, the tax extender bill is the other part of it, and I don't see very much support on the Democratic side for the tax extender bill. It's a massive, permanent, real giveaway, unpaid for tax extender package, which is really destructive of our future. Evidently, the Republican deficit hawks are endangered species now. We're adding hundreds of billions of dollars to the deficit permanently. And have you heard any of the deficit hawks speaking out against this action? Maybe they should be on the endangered species list, I don't know. But it undermines our ability to invest in our children. It eliminates the possibility of revenue reform that creates fairness and simplification in the tax code. And what we want to do is do just that, simplify, make fair, lower the corporate rate, do what we need to do to create growth, to create good paying jobs here at home. And this bill that they expect us to vote on includes hundreds of billions of dollars in permanent tax breaks for special interest in big corporations while neglecting hardworking families. And some of it is about rewarding overseas activities. The Republicans continue to fight our efforts to ensure key refundable tax credits that are indexed for hardworking families, putting money in the pockets of the American people. I worked with President Bush on really landmark legislation in that regard. That was 7 years ago. It's time for this to be indexed. The Republicans say no. But they index the estate tax, they index all these tax breaks for their friends. As Congressman Ellison and Congressman Grijalva wrote in their letter to on the extenders bill, these are the co-chairs of the Progressive Caucus. While we agree on the importance of providing permanent extensions for key refundable tax credits that benefit working families, we are concerned that the current agreement is weighed too heavily toward corporate America. Really like 4-1, 4-1. The omnibus and tax extenders bills must be separated, and I assume that they will be, because, as I say, there's one group of members of Congress who will vote for the omnibus. Depending on what it is, we'll see what comes back with the riders and the rest, and without the riders and the rest, and the extender bill, which has very little support in our caucus. Any questions? Yeah.
It looks like the terrorists in San Bernardino had been planning this for a number of years. What does that say about the U.S. ability to interdict and intercept people with bad intent like this?
Well, we had a briefing yesterday, and we have some more questions about that. I don't think we've heard the whole story yet, but our responsibility is to protect the American people any way that we can. We also have to protect our civil liberties in our country, and we have to keep that balance. But this, according to what we heard, it would have been very hard to. We'll see. We have to learn more. But from what we heard, was that yesterday when we had the briefing? Time has gone by. It would have been very hard to detect.
Still, do you feel let down?
Well, this is an unfolding case and revelation. We'll see what else is there. Yes, ma'am.
Madam Leader, have Republicans responded to your call to get rid of the Dickey Amendment and the omnibus? And if that is not removed from the omnibus, will Democrats be able to reach a deal?
Well, I think of it more as an incentive for Democrats to vote for the bill. This is, after all, a compromise. And we know we have a responsibility to keep government open, and that's what we're striving to do, in spite of some of the bad riders that are still in the bill from days gone by that have shall we say, ossified within the process. But I think it's a gift to them to say, you want our votes, here is a way to get them. I think a bit more in the positive. Yes, Chad.
So,
Are we going to ask about the Warriors?
no,
ask about the
actually I
Warriors?
wasn't. I thought you were going to ask me, the Bengals and the Niners play in a couple of
Yeah, but you know the Warriors.
and you know which team is the much better, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it. On the,
See, when the Warriors are winning all these games straight, he doesn't want to talk about
we
it.
don't have a basketball team in Cincinnati. So,
But we have one in the Golden State Warriors, and we're
They play
very
in
proud of
Oakland.
Steph Curry.
they play in Oakland.
Yeah, well, that's the San Francisco Bay Area, and they're coming to it.
Very good. So back to my question. The Speaker has said that they're working on the tax extenders bill and the omnibus side by side. Is there a possibility, if you get trade-offs, if they do in fact cleave these bills apart and they're separate pieces, if you get something in tax extenders on child credit, or you get guns here, that's considered this macro sense? Because,
And what's the question?
well, if the negotiation is being worked out that way, that you're looking at these two pieces of legislation
Yeah.
side by side, and it's not horse trading on just one bill, horse trading on the other, because then they want to get as many
But
Republicans
so
as
the
possible.
vote, the question is,
The question is that how the negotiations are working? That if you get something in tax extenders, they get something
well,
in
we'll
omnibus.
see how
or
it
vice
goes.
versa.
I thought you were going to say if they join them together. So let me anticipate that. I wouldn't vote for it. I wouldn't recommend that anybody else vote for it. So that's not a way to keep government open,
But,
unless they have all the Republican votes to do it.
but they obviously want to get as many Republicans as they can for the omnibus. You guys have said consistently that it looks like they're going to be being
Okay,
Democratic.
You already had your question.
That's a follow-up.
Ms. Pelosi, I'm wondering if it's starting to look unlikely that you can get a deal, a big deal on extenders, and perhaps you'll end up with just a 2-year extension.
No, they could have a Republican extender bill. I'm only speaking for the House Democrats. And when they say, oh, I'm holding up the extender bill, I've never been for it. I wasn't before it had big oil in it. I think it's far too expensive. I think the extender bill that is out there, as I said, is destructive of our future. It's a wrong way to go, to have hundreds of billions of dollars, maybe 700 or more, $100 billion in permanent tax extenders. There's no reason we have to go down that path. And yes, there are a couple good things in there about child tax credit and the rest. I negotiated those, as I said before, with President Bush. It was historic, the levels to which we took that. But it's time to have indexation for that. They don't want to hear about that. So from my standpoint, and some of my members even think with extenders, indexation in it, they wouldn't be for the bill because it's too big. It undermines our ability to get something done for the future. So, as I said, I said to Senator Hatch, you're either saying I'm holding it up or I'm not in the loop. I can't be both. But I don't even want to be in the loop on that bill. And then to add the lifting the ban on oil and all the money that means for the oil industry, while they can't index for children, it's too big, it's unfair, and does not have the support of House Democrats. But it could have the support of others. I'm not speaking for anyone except House Democrats. And then this is going to be the last question.
Madam Leader, some of the budget watchdog groups have said that if this extender package goes through, this Republican-controlled Congress will have added about $1 trillion to the debt. Are Republicans being dishonest? And to that matter, the White House as well, about how much deficit and debt control has been going on these last few years?
Well, I'm not saying anybody's being dishonest. I'm just saying they have a different view of what adds to the deficit. What I do know is a stimulus to the economy is to invest in child tax credit, earned income tax credit, because people spend that money immediately. It injects demand into the economy. But then if you review the list of some of the things that they have, and some of them are not bad. I mean, 179, small business, we created that. But you shouldn't be having it permanent and unpaid for. That is the issue. It's not the issue of is it, now some of them are terrible and they're permanent and unpaid for, so they have no justification. Others of them, okay, if we're going to we have to pay for 9/11. What's that about, $9 billion? We have to find the money to pay for 9/11, for the health and the compensation of people who, in an emergency, so that should make it not have to be paid for in person, in an emergency, risk their lives, have consequences, health and otherwise, that we owe them this compensation. We have to find the money to pay for that. But hundreds of millions of dollars, permanent, unpaid for tax breaks. I mean, I'm glad to hear you say that there's some people who are concerned about the budget, because I haven't heard many of them speak up. But this is not the right way to go. But they have the majority, and this is their vehicle, and so there's some negotiation going on with them on it. And I don't, that I'm not part of that because I don't believe in it. I think it's the wrong way to go. My members share that view. And by the way, my members are the most vocal on this because I listen to what they have to say. I notify them of what I hear. I don't tell them what we're going to do. I hear what they say back. And they don't even want us negotiating on it for anything because they think it's the wrong place to go. And I think if the American people understood that all this talk about the budget and the rest, and this is a president who deserves so much praise. When he took office, the deficit was 70% higher than it is now. It's come down 70%. What was it, 1.2? It's like $500 1.2 trillion, 500. So he's worked very hard to take down the deficit. Now the Republicans come in with this and say, we have the majority. If you want some of these extensions to happen, you have to go big. And big means unpaid for, permanent. Take it off the table so the baseline is different for how we want to invest in the future. Take it off the table so these are all taken care of in any discussion we have about simplification or fairness in the tax code that really creates growth, creates more good-paying jobs in our country, and has many more people participating in the prosperity of our country. It's about trickle down, trickle down, trickle down, and this is their current manifestation of trickle down. But they have the majority, and so they need to be negotiated with, of course. And the president has the signature, so that gives him leverage in that discussion. But I made it clear, don't count on our votes for that.
The child tax credit, permanent child tax credit was added to this bill that you say is too big and destructive. Could you still
It's in
support
there.
it?
It's in there. The child tax credit is in there.
By indexing it.
But they're not going to index it. Instead, they put big oil in there. So in other words, when you see the bill and you say, well, how can we give better balance to this bill by indexation, they come in and say, no, not indexation. Let's go on the other side and do big oil. I mean, there's not even an attempt. But you know what? They have the votes. This is what they want to do. We do not want to give our imprimatur to it. We will not be accomplices.
Does the White House
Thank
support you in your position?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you
Does
said.
the White House agree with you guys?
You'll have to talk to them. No, in other words, we have shared values on this, and at some place, this bill will be improved by the negotiation that the White House will have because they want to sign something. We don't need to be for it. They'll have enough Republican votes supporting their special interest friends to pass this thing in a second. And that's why I don't want it joined to the omnibus bill, because they don't want to support the omnibus bill, and I don't know what happens to the whole package because of that. But I think we're on a path. Our responsibility is to keep government open for the American people. They have frivolously indicated that they'd be willing to shut it down, so we have to work hard with the new speaker, extending the hand of friendship, any suggestions or opportunities we may have to work together. We have that responsibility to find our common ground, and that is what we are doing. Somebody had this idea about this big other package. They could not have been thinking of the House Democrats as supporters of that when they came up with that.
Are you going to meet the Wednesday deadline, Leader Pelosi?
Because we have a speaker on the floor and another